All right, hello everyone. Hi there. So, if you've never seen me before, which many of you may not have, I'm a newer faculty. I no, my mic was working fine. Yes, it was. I'm not using that. I have I bought a good mic. People complained about my mic last term, and admittedly, this mic is pretty bad. But hi. So I am the professor for CS 2110 for the summer. Gonna just go ahead and pull up my slides. So you'll see me typically. I'll move my face around if it's in the way of anything on the slides. But um indeed, glad some people already like Twitch emotes. That is admittedly one of the reasons I choose to continue using this rather than Zoom. If you've never used Twitch before, you should notice chat that direction. If you create an account, you can type in that chat during lecture. I will live respond to questions. There is no sub button, nor will there be one, because you're already paying for this class. So it would be a pretty big conflict of interest if we accepted any other type. That basically would be the same as paying your professor. It just awkward. I don't foresee myself allowing that at any point. Do we have access to the slides? Yes. So I'm actually in the process of setting up the course website. But if you go to, and I will have these set up shortly. There's a lecture slides folder. I actually didn't create the folder for today. My bad. I will create folders each day, and I'm actually just gonna go ahead and do that now. Let me go ahead and just. I know you're seeing this live, so apologies, but just going to go ahead and get slides up for today. And there we go. All right, they're up now. So I will have the slides uploaded as PDFs every day. If you go on Colab, all resources, code, etc. will be uploaded on Colab. If you go to resources on the left, you'll see lecture notes. You won't see this resources folder. That's my secret folder. None of you get to see it. But you will see, I will just have every day, and I sort these by date. So tomorrow will be 0616, and then a brief summary of the topic that day. That's just to try to make everything easy to find. So the slides are up there now. But yeah, so welcome to the class. If you haven't done this before, which many of you know, GroupMe for the class. I'm not familiar with GroupMe, admittedly. There will be a Discord, and we'll get into that in a second. I'm actually not familiar with GroupMe. Admittedly, there's too much social networking out there for me to keep up with. I'm bald, and therefore that means I'm old. Anyway, so for those who aren't familiar with me, allow myself to introduce myself. So my name. Paul McBurney, but I go by my middle name Will because I like to lie to people for fun. And actually, if you click on this link in the slide, it takes you to an Onion article, which is related to that. So I do go by my middle name. I have 3 cats. You can see them left to right is Morgan, Stuart, and Colby. They are adorable. I am originally from West Virginia, so I am a West Virginia University alumnus. I did my PhD at the University of Notre Dame. I do enjoy video games. That's just a little bit about myself. That's part of why I'm using Twitch and Discord, because they're things I'm very comfortable using. And so I put a lot of effort to try to make sure that these things work fairly well. That includes even having a whiteboard set up. That way I can, as needed, class, walk over here, and if that is needed, which I will at times during the class. Forget my guitar, I actually have nowhere else in my basement to put it. So I am going to do the best I can to simulate a reasonably realistic class experience. But I do want to take a minute, and I do want to acknowledge the rather crazy time that we live in. I know this class is going to be hard to do online. Certainly, when I signed up to do this early in the spring, there was no thought that we would basically have gone online for this summer, let alone at the end of last spring, let alone potentially for the fall. So I recognize that this class is going to be complicated by the fact that we are online. I am going to do the best that I can to try to simulate a real class experience. We cannot meet in person, and I am sorry for that. However, if there is something that I can do within reason to try to help you succeed in this course, please let me know. When we get to office hours later, I have 5 office hours a week. If needed, I can meet occasionally outside of those times, though it has to be by appointment. I will do what I can to try to make this class succeed, recognizing all the difficulties that we're going to be facing. So, please don't be afraid to ask if you need additional assistance or consideration at any. To that end, just a little bit about myself. I did do my PhD at the University of Notre Dame. I spent 3 years teaching intro programming courses in Java, as well as software engineering at the University of Pennsylvania. I chose to move here to Charlottesville and work at UVA about a year ago. To now is when I started. I do have a lot of interest in how to teach this material effectively, and I put a lot of time and energy into thinking about and building solutions to those problems, as well as software education, software engineering education. How to contact me. First is my email, pm8fc. If you're worried about remembering that, Paul McBurney ate fried chicken, and it was delicious. There's a picture. I'm a big fan of mnemonic devices. Hopefully that helps. That is a cropped PNG from Bojangles. So there you go. Office hours will be on Discord. So I have set up a Discord channel, which, give me 1 second to get figured here. So I have a Discord channel set up. And on that Discord, there is a schedules page. And here you can see, I can put a bot in to do that, Vix. I should probably do that. That's a good point. Thank you, Vix, 4723. I will put a bot in to do that. I just have to learn how to do it, because I've never actually done it before. I know there's means to. But this is linked on the class Piazza. So while I appreciate the GroupMe aspect, I have an integrated course infrastructure, and in order to make me as effective as I can be, I want to limit the number of channels that I need to check. If I have to check my email, Discord, Piazza, Colab, and now some fifth thing, one of those is going to fall through the cracks. So I am going to try to limit which communications I use. You're certainly welcome to have fellow students join. If you want to do that, post it on Piazza. For security reasons, I'm not going to have links available in chat. There was, for one of the lecturers who tried to do this, a phishing scam done over Twitch, so that's why we don't allow links. But to that end, the class Piazza page, which you can find if you go to Colab and click Piazza, it will take you to this page. The class Piazza page has all of this information, including the Discord link, which I will copy and paste into chat now. I can post links, obviously. So that is the Discord link if you want to go ahead and join. And while I'm at it, I will go ahead and link the Piazza as well. The Piazza is going to be very helpful for homework discussion, for homework help. It's going to be very helpful. I'm going to primarily use Piazza for course announcements. I have used Colab up until now, but I find Piazza, because of the nature of it letting me choose which messages are pinned, that's kind of a feature that I prefer, so I will likely use Piazza for announcements. Certainly you can post questions, answers on here. I already have this online master thread. Course logistics will be posted here, so as we approach the exam, I will also have information there, as well as instructions for installing OpenJDK Eclipse. You are not required to use OpenJDK. if you've already installed a JDK before, you only need a JDK, a Java Development Kit. And we'll talk more about what that means either later today or early tomorrow. So I know I'm throwing a lot of information out here, a lot of contact information. But just to clarify, the Discord is where I'm going to hold office hours. There's a channel called Office Hour Q. If you need help, you will just type what you need in this channel. You will then jump into Office Hours waiting room, at which point you will be able to be pulled into one of the rooms by me or one of the TAs. That's just to help us out. Discord does support screen sharing. It does also support file sharing. One thing I do ask on the Discord, treat it like any other classroom discussion, which is to say, try to keep things professional and above all else kind. We're all struggling right now, so certainly try to be patient. I do have a lecture watch room, by the way, that you're welcome to jump into. I do not plan to sit in it during lecture, and if you have questions, please just type them in chat. So those are the main class resources: Piazza, Discord, and then of course Twitch for live lecture. All files that I write in class will be uploaded on Colab. All of them. The other thing that's on Colab, in addition to the syllabus, which I do encourage you to read and we will go through today, the other thing is the course schedule. And the course schedule is actually fairly lined up, and I do want to really highlight the importance of the fact that this is a 4-week course. And in 4 weeks, I need to bridge the gap from an intro programming course. We assume some version of 1110 or 1111 or 1112 from UVA, but if you have programming experience elsewhere, that also qualifies. We assume that's your starting point. From there, I need to prepare you for 2150, which if you've not heard, 2150 is tough. It is a difficult course, and it does rely on a lot of existing programming experience. And so given that, I will be trying... this class, if you look, has a lot of assignments. You can see that I have multiple quizzes and multiple homeworks. I have 6 homeworks total. I have 7 quizzes total. The quizzes are short multiple choice things. We'll talk about that in a second. 6 homeworks in 4 weeks is a lot, but it is needed to reinforce the material we're teaching. So do be prepared for that level of workload. I don't know how well you can see this because my preview screen is fairly blurry, but again, you can see this on Canva or on Colab on the course schedule tab. Are there any questions so far, by the way? Because if at any point you have a question, please just type into Twitch chat. I'm going to take a minute to just pause. That way people don't feel like they're going to miss something if they're typing. And we'll let anyone ask any questions about our course read. It should be, if you go to syllabus, under full syllabus, you should see this document. Is it visible? Oh, oops. My mistake, I didn't publish it. Should be good to go now. If you refresh the page, it should be visible. Here it is. Keep in mind that I adopted this from our syllabus for fall and spring. And so if there are things that look out of place or don't seem to apply to this term, please don't be afraid to ask. Thank you, AA, for letting me know that. And I will do my best to try to pronounce Twitch names. Certainly, please bear with me as I do that. Are there any other questions? Oh, and by the way, these lectures are uploaded to YouTube after class in their entirety. I will have that channel linked in the on the Piazza Master thread. All right, so we're going to take some time today and go through the course policies before we jump into Java. So, one thing to note, if you are on the waiting list, so last I checked, so we expanded the class to 40, which for a 4-week course with 3 TAs is actually a lot, believe it or not, especially when it's online. That actually makes it harder. We have expanded the class to 40. There are still, last I checked, 4 people on the waiting list. If you are on the waiting list, I would encourage you to continue attending class and work on Homework Zero, as I've seen a sizable number of people drop the class within the last week. I think some may not have had the expectation that this class will be like a traditional course, where it will be. So I want you to be aware of that. Currently, the waitlist at 4, as I said. I don't plan to go beyond 40, but I will take into consideration kind of the proportional increase that will happen as if it's just a small number. Point being, stay on the waitlist for now. Goals of the course. One of the things that we're obviously going to develop in this course is programming skills. You're going to learn the Java programming language. And a lot of times when I start talking about programming languages, younger programmers, and even by younger, I don't necessarily mean college students. I mean, even younger professionals tend to put a lot of emphasis on what programming languages. And in my experience, it's actually overstated how important that is. Languages is almost a bad term. It would be more of a dialect, I would say. Most programming languages have the same underlying syntax and structure, but it's not even like going from Spanish to English. It's like going from American English to British English, or as they like to call it, English, in their mind. And so a big thing that you will see, because again, we're assuming a background in Python. You will not need to know Python in this class. That's just the most likely common denominator of some Python experience. If you know Java ahead of time, you'll find the beginning of the class probably fairly easy, if not boring. By the way, that was Colby's tail. Just saw. We're going to go from Python to Java, and the hope is that while Java is wordier, you'll start to realize some of the benefits of Java's more strongly typed natures and statically typed nature. How that maybe allows for some better software engineering style structures. So you're going to increase your skills as a programmer as well as a problem solver. You're also going to talk about software engineering principles. So that is things like, pardon me. 1 minute. Sorry, for some reason I don't like the cough on camera. Anyway. So the goals here are building more large-scale software systems. So we're going to work on that together. Those are materials that will be taught in this. Just to clarify what CS 2110 is and what it is not. So first, 2110 is a required course for the CS major and minor at the University of Virginia. However, and actually I should note, sorry, this placement test information is out of date. The placement test will not be available this summer. It will presumably be available in the fall, albeit there's so many unknown variables for fall. I can't say anything about the structure of the fall placement exam at this time. But if you know the following topics, you would probably, if you're very comfortable with these, you would probably be able to pass the placement exam. So that's things like ArrayList, the collections framework equals to strings, object-oriented design, including inheritance, encapsulation, data structures. We're going to look at all of these in class. Software development, life cycles, and a basic introduction to algorithms. If you are not familiar with these topics, guess what? You're going to get familiar with them. That's 2110. If you are already very, very comfortable with these, you may admittedly find this class boring. And I don't want to That's not to dissuade you from staying in the course at all. That is just to say, please bear with us as we go over some material you may already know. Technically, is the exam going to be able to be taken the full day? So, this is a great question. I'm going to get to the exams here in a bit, because the reality is I have asked that question and I have not had that question answered. And I'm working on it, so I will tell you why some of the limitations are. Anyway, we'll get to that in a bit when we get to exams. First, if you have a concept question, Piazza or office hours. If you have a code question, you may post privately on Piazza. Do not post code publicly on Piazza. Do not post homework code publicly on Piazza. And that's because you are required to protect your own code. You are responsible for making sure it does not get shared, etc. Or TA office hours. We can do that. Homework lab grading doesn't apply, but if there's a homework grading question, you will contact your grading TA for the homework. Your TA will leave a note saying who graded it, and you can reach out to them. If there's a further dispute, then you can reach out to me, but start with your TA. Exam regrades, those will be done. There will be a means to do that, because we're probably not going to be able to do the exam the way we've done it in the past. If you have a personal issue or an accommodation request or anything like that, please reach out to me via my instructor email. Again, PM8FC. Please don't PM me on Discord or on Twitch, and it's because I don't check those. I check my email, I check Piazza. Those are the best ways to contact me. Expectations evaluation. So there will be readings. There is no reading today, but I will post the reading list. It will go in the resources folder on Colab. This will have the readings listed for each class day. You're expected to do those before class. Content that is in the readings that is not covered in lecture is still fair game for exams. I don't intentionally do that, but if the content is in the reading, it is considered fair game. As for participating in class, this is where it gets a bit tricky, because participation is a big part of this class, but how do I do this remotely? So this is where I'm going to go back to Discord. In addition to the lecture watch room, which you're certainly welcome to jump in, I have all these student rooms set up. These student rooms, you have access to join. Every day you're going to have a daily activity. That is intended to be collaborative. You are intended to work with people. You're intended to share code with your classmates on the in-class activities. Not on the homework, but yes, on the in-class activity. You're intended to. And to that end, I encourage you to jump into these student rooms and to talk to each other. And certainly I will be available for a bit of time after class, as well as my office hours. You can ping me if you want me to jump in and maybe provide some assistance. Same with TAs who are available. So I do encourage you to use these student rooms to work on the in-class activities. I just realized you can't see them. Here they are. So here's all the voice channels. You can see the student rooms. These rooms can accommodate as many people as you want. If we need more rooms, I'm happy to create them. I doubt we will. I think 8 is plenty. But certainly if you feel I need more, just hit me up and I will I will make more channels. This is one way I'm trying to help with collaboration. You're welcome to use these rooms to study, or you're welcome to use these rooms to talk to each other about any course material, or really anything at that matter. So don't be afraid to do so. Asking questions, obviously, over Twitch chat is one means to do that. You can obviously ask over Piazza as well. Just try to keep yourself involved as best as you're able. I do encourage you to take notes. Just because these lectures are recorded, the very act of note-taking, just writing down things, helps commit them to memory because it passes through the pathway. We are tracking participation through the submission of daily activities. So there will be a daily activity for every class period, with the exception of the final exam review. That's the only day we won't have and also days of exams. So days of exams and the final exam review day, we will not have assignments. You have an assignment today. It's actually already posted. We'll go over it later in the class. There will be an assignment every day, and that's how we check it. Are dailies graded on effort or correctness? You should strive for correctness. They will be primarily graded on effort. But they will be sincerely graded on effort. If you take the code that we get, the starter code we give you, and you just submit it without any changes, you will get 0 points out of 10 for that day's activity. So, to that end, you will have a daily activity. Let me actually skip to that first. Oh, I don't have that. Okay, so you will have a daily activity every day. I'll just pull up the syllabus page. Give me 1 second. These daily activities account for 15% of your final grade. You will have to do something every day. It will be due by 11:59 p.m. the day they are assigned. That is Eastern Time. I recognize not everyone is in the Eastern Time Zone. So do be aware that that is the deadline, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. There will be an in-class activity nearly every day of lecture, with very, very few exceptions. The in-class activities will be posted under the assignments tab, and so you can see under the assignments list that the in-class activity for today is posted. I will fix the due date. It says 11:30. It should be 11:59. And it's actually, I will post the instructions here, but we will talk about it later, because we are going to talk about data types today. I should note, lectures are 2 hours and 15 minutes. Generally, I will try to take a 5 to 10 minute break in the middle of the lecture just to get some water, as well as I assume everyone else might need a minute to decompress. As, you know, studies show that I've already probably lost most of your attention because it's been more than 15 minutes. So certainly 2 hours and 15 minutes will start to kind of border on absurdity. So we usually take a break around 2 o'clock or 2:05, briefly. But this will be due every day. It is 15% of your grade. It is designed for you to get 100% on this section. It is very, very much by design that this is a 15% out of 15% part of the class. You should get every point. To that end, you can miss 2 in-class activities, and I want to be clear what this means. If there is an illness on a given day, if your internet goes out, whatever the reason, that's what these 2 days are for. I do not recommend you using those 2 days early. If you think, oh, I'm stressed today, I don't want to do this in-class activity, I'll just burn one of my 2 days. Because if you get sick or lose internet later, you now have one less day to accommodate that. So these 2 days are designed for any technical issues or any physical real-world limitations. So do try to use them as such. Are there any questions about the in-class activities? That is, by the way, how participation is tracked. I will not be checking attendance. Should we submit as text submission through Colab? So it varies from assignment to assignment. Today's assignment is a text submission. You're just gonna list like 1 data type, 2 data type, 3 data type. Most of the time, I will give you some Java file to start with. You will make changes and upload your completed Java file. So most of the time, it will be a file submission. When it is, you will only be able to upload submissions. There won't be an inline portion. But some of the activities won't involve uploading any files and can just be responded to by inline. Just because I assume many of you don't have the IDE or JDK installed yet, I'm certainly not going to expect you to write a functional Java file today. A good question, Megan. Are there any other questions about the in-class activities? My cat Stuart has decided that he is, until I pay attention, playing with his mousey. Very adorable. Okay, homework assignments. There will be several individual, very emphasized word, individual homework assignments. Those will be due 11:30 the day they are due. Homework may be submitted up to 48 hours late, but with a penalty of 10% per day. After 48 hours late, they will not be accepted for any reason. If there is some situation I need to be aware of that may prevent you from doing the homework, you need to reach out to me ASAP. Certainly, if you know you're going to have an extended absence in the future, please reach out to me now. Because of the pace of this course, there's not much I can do to give leeway, but I will do what I can. Given that I have a month to teach something that we typically teach over 3.5 months, it is difficult. So please try to be understanding of that limitation. No homeworks will be dropped. Homeworks account for 40% of your grade. To be clear, the homeworks are a bigger portion of your grade than the exams combined. And that is intended. There will be one midterm exam, which is next Friday, because it's only a 4-week class, so midway through the class is next Friday. Do we have 5 homework or 6? The email says 6, the course schedule says 5. There are 6. If you look closely at the course schedule, there's a homework 0. And I probably should have maintained the same convention for the quizzes. If you look very closely, you will notice that there's a homework 0. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 homeworks. Are there any tests that we need to pass? Like, yes, there will be automated tests for most of the assignments. Is there a submission site for the homework? Yes. Yes, there is. So this will be similar to how 1110 functions in terms of you'll submit an assignment, we will run tests. You will get immediate feedback. We don't do the 2-hour delay. That's because the assignments in this class are larger. And so, you know, whereas the assignments in 1110 and 1111 typically involve writing at most like 3 functions or so. This assignment you'll be writing multiple classes, each with their own function. So there will be automated feedback. That is done through WebCat. I will discuss that when Homework 1 is posted. Homework 0, however, is not on WebCat. It is actually on a website called CodingBat, and we'll talk about that today in class, although it won't be until tomorrow that if you don't have any programming experience with Java, it won't be until tomorrow you're ready to tackle it, but we will give you ample time for that homework. Let me make sure I answered all the question. Are there automated tests? Yes, there are. Is submission site? Yes, WebCat. We'll talk about that for each assignment. CodingBat won't be over WebCat, but the other assignments will. Are there any other questions about the homework? Again, these are individual. So there's a rule I generally espouse called pencils down collaboration. And I'm going to write this down. Pencils down collaboration. The general rule is, if you want to talk to classmates about how to tackle certain homework problems, I don't have a problem with that. But if you have to be so specific that in order to remember things, you need to write them down, then you're being too specific with collaboration. I want to take some time and talk about the collaboration policy in this class. And the short version of this is just that at no point should you see any code from any other student for any reason. This includes students not taking the course now but have taken it previously. Let me... Hang on. There we go. This includes students who've taken the class previously. This includes students who take the class in the future. Do not post your homework code on GitHub. There's a few things I want to say about that. The first is, if you post your code publicly on GitHub, anyone can see it. It is no different than if you handed someone a thumb drive with your code on it. It is treated exactly the same. It is an egregious violation of academic integrity. 2, while having a good GitHub portfolio is valuable for a job search, and it is. They're going to want to see your projects. Companies are not going to be impressed by something that you did for a homework in this class that every other student did. They're going to want to see something unique. So it's not really going to benefit you in a job search anyway. I know having a good GitHub portfolio can be beneficial. Don't put your homework assignments, especially from this class, but really from any early class on it. If you have a class where you do a very independent project, a project that is only loosely guided by the class, where you kind of build your own idea out, then that can be very valuable, certainly. And I don't want to dissuade that, but your homework from this class should not be on GitHub. At no point should you should never even see another student's code in this class. Unless you are bald and 32 with kind of messed up teeth and you wear glasses, or you're one of that guy's 3 TAs, you should not be seeing any other student's code. For any reason at all. Past, present, or future. Unless you become a TA in this class. Those are the only conditions you should see anyone else's code for any reason. I want to be really clear about this. This is something we take very seriously. My first semester here, we had something like 84 students who cheated in this course. And we severely penalized all of their grades. So please don't make me do that this summer. I do cheat check the code. So just be aware of that. I know a lot of times people get worried about false positives. I can assure you that I spend a lot of time and energy making sure I avoid false positives. I'm going to have to plug my headset in. And I don't have a USB port to plug. I'm going to have to... Give me 1 second. Are there any questions about our academic policy? Academic integrity policy? While I am fixing my headset here, apologies. All right, so I'm for now going to assume that we are understanding that policy. There will be 1 to 2 quizzes per week. How do you join Piazza? So if you go to the link above, it should be up in the chat, but I can copy it again. Give me 1 second here. If you don't have a Piazza account yet, you can create one. And then you simply just join that class. Actually, let me make sure instructor sign up. Okay, good. So you should be able to join that class, at which point you can just post. You just need to create an account first. Certainly, if you're having difficulties, you can come to my office hours later, and I'd be happy to help out. Something to note about this class, because I have gotten this question. To my knowledge, there is no pass-fail option for this class. That is to say that this class must be taken for a letter grade, A through F. To that end, I should note that if we find that you cheat on a homework assignment, or you assist another student, and by doing so help them cheat, it will cost you a letter in the course. Effectively, you will go from an A to a B, or from, say, a C plus to a D plus, whatever that is. That's the intent. A second time will result in an F in the course. I should note in 2150, the first time you're caught cheating in the course, you get an F in the course. So do just be aware that the CS department does take that very serious. So again, these assignments are individual. The quizzes, there is a syllabus quiz that was posted. It's due June 18th. This is the only quiz you will get to retake. But you can retake it in order to get 100%. There are 10 questions. You need 10 points. That covers the syllabus, so there are things on there that I don't have time to discuss in class, but I just want to make sure that you see them. From there, just reiterating the course schedule. Let's see. Not it. Just reiterating the course schedule. You can see when our midterm and final exam are. I want to take a minute to talk about the exam. The first, this is to address the question I missed earlier. Well, not missed, but I said I was going to pass. From NMPC Nick 1. Is the exam going to be able to be taken during the full day of the 26th? I'm not sure where you're getting the 26th from. So I have the exam as June 12th. This, I should note, is a 4-week class. You're talking about, oh, yes. Sorry, you're talking about the midterm exam. So, so with the final exam, as I have been told, the expectation is the exam is offered 1 to 3 p.m., and that I may be restricted to that. I have asked for permission to make the exam available that day. I have not received an answer yet. Whatever policy governs the final exam, I will use that same policy for the midterm exam. I should note that many students have reached out to me saying they have things like internships right now. While this class is online, you should view it as a traditional course. And that is to say that while the replays will be available, etc., and while I will not be checking who's in Twitch chat, I am assuming that you are in lecture 1 to 3. So I do think that is a fair time to offer the exam. I suspect I will not offer the exam for 24 hours. I may offer the exam for up to 12, but I doubt it will be more than that. And I may be restricted to offering it during the time that is allotted. I don't know the answer to that yet. And with the final exam policies generally being very rigid, I have asked my dean what the correct approach is. If I will very much pressure them to give me an answer by the end of the week. I do apologize I don't have that. But we got special permission in the spring because of everything going on to make a take-home final available the entire day of an exam rather than just the time period allotted. I don't know if that permission is continuing into the summer, and I want to make sure it is before I commit. So I apologize. That's a very long non-answer, but the short answer right now is I don't know yet. But whatever policy I'm told governs the final exam, I will apply to the midterm, and I will hopefully have that answer soon. Are tests going to be the same? It will be one-on-one with the TA. No. The exams will be online within Colab. There will be a coding portion on a second website. We'll talk about that when we get to it. However, to that end, the exams in this class are Open Note, Open Book, and Open IDE. Because we're online, and if I tried to stop those things, it would only hurt honest students, so I'm not going to try to. But it is individual, and we will be cheat checking your code with other students. So you do need to work alone on the exam, but it is Open Note, Open IDE, Open Internet. I do, however, check Chegg, and I check Stack Overflow, and I check many, many other websites. Don't post exam questions there. If I find it, I will reach out to the website. They will tell me the account that posted it, and you will be given a 0 on the exam and an F in the course. Cheating on the exam is an immediate F in the course. So don't do those things. The only reason I say that is it happened in the spring, and it was a very unpleasant experience. Basically, I'm giving you access to your notes, the internet, IDEs, but you have to work alone. I'm not going to elaborate further on that. TFT is games. I will just simply say that there were instances in the spring. All right. Any other questions? All right, that's it for course materials for now. To that end, I am now going to introduce you to your new friend, Eclipse. And with Eclipse, and you might, I think one of my projects is actually going to be up right now. That's kind of a personal project I've been working on for a long time. Let me close that. So, give me 1 second to close all my existing projects. Eclipse is a tool for building large software projects, and it is an IDE for Java. I want to be clear, Eclipse is not Java, the same way that PyCharm was not Python. Eclipse is an IDE that interfaces with the Java programming language. And like PyCharm, your projects are organized. Your code is organized into projects, but unlike PyCharm, you can have multiple projects open in the same window. So, for instance, all of these projects, most of them are code I've actually used in class. Some of them are my own personal projects as well. But to that end, I can create a project. Let's say 0615 intro, and this is a Java project. From there, it automatically creates this subfolder. I can go to source. I can do new class. So a Java file is called a class file. Talk about what that means in a second. And for now, I'm going to call this Hello World. And Hello World is the first program we write in a typical language. And Hello World in Java is written as public class Hello World. And this is where you're immediately going to realize that Java is unfortunately quite a bit more verbose than Python is. Public static void main string args. I know this looks scary, but don't worry. System.out.println hello world. For now, I'm going to write this code. This is a simple program that simply prints hello world. I can save this code. I can then run it by hitting this green arrow up here. And you'll see hello world prints down below. Now you may be thinking, wow, this is a lot to just print hello world. But I want to stipulate a few things. First, in Python, your global scope is your main. Python runs your files start to finish. If you define functions at the top, those functions are defined at the top, but then they're run by some mechanism below, right? And very often you may have written a main method and then called main as the last part of your file. In Java, the code that you want in your main method has to be inside of this body public static void main string args. And while this looks kind of scary, you literally will always write this line exactly. You don't ever have to make any adjustment. It will always look like this. In fact, in these first 2 lines of code, the only thing that changes is this here. And this is the name of your program. Let me make sure. Sorry, my Discord is on Do Not Disturb. I got a ping from something, but I'll address it later. So this is the only part that changes in your first 2 lines. Now notice that my file is helloworld.java and my program is public class hello world. The names of the file and the class have to match exactly. If I were to just change this to hello, I'm going to get the red underline of shame, which means I have a syntax error. The red underline of shame meaning that you have some kind of syntax. And the issue is my class name doesn't match my file name. So it has to match, and that match is case sensitive. This is still not correct because I have a lowercase w. Always make sure that your file name, if it's helloworld.java, it's public class hello world. Always. From there, this is the same as in Python typing print hello world. This is exactly the same thing. System.out.println is a stand-in for print. And you may think, well, why does it have this overly verbose syntax? In Java, you can use the print line function not just to print to the console, but also to print to a file. And you simply just do that file stream.println something. You can set up streams that way. System.out is just the console. And then you simply print whatever you want to print. Print line, that is, it has a little ln there, that's short for print line. That's so that way after you're done printing, it's like hitting enter on your keyboard. To illustrate how this is valuable, let me add a second print statement. Welcome. I can't spell the word welcome. Welcome to CS 2110. If I print these two statements, you will notice they print on separate lines. If I delete ln, the difference is now they print on the same line with no white space between them. So the difference between print and print ln is like hitting enter after you're done. Print without the ln is like not hitting enter after you're done. Typically, you'll use print line. Just be aware of the difference. Are there any questions about this Java program so far, before we get into the weeds of how this actually works? Because I should note my computer is not running this file. This file is not being run by my computer when I run the program. And I'll explain why that is the case in a second. But are there any questions about this code so far? What are the semicolons for? That's a great question. So in Python is a white space sensitive language. Python assumes a line of code ends when you hit enter. It assumes that a body is nested, like when we define a function, if it's indented. Java is not white space sensitive. Java determines where a line of code ends by a semicolon. How do I switch Eclipse to dark mode? I'll show that in a second. Good question. It's actually fairly easy, but give me 1 second to finish answering this, and I'll get to it. So, in Java, what I'm about to do with the code is going to be painful to look at. And I do apologize in advance. But, this give me 1 second here. This code, let me get the last two brackets there. This is a completely valid program. This is syntactically correct. What I have done is I have removed all extra white space that I can from this program. In fact, I can remove even more. This is completely valid Java code. This program works and it runs. Java is not white space sensitive. In fact, most languages are not white space sensitive. Python's actually an exception, not the rule. Python's actually unusual because it treats white space as relevant. It actually looks at indent level, for example. So that is actually unusual about Python rather than this being unusual about Java. So semicolons are how we tell a line ends, because Java does not assume a line ends. Does that mean every line of code ends with a semicolon? Every statement ends in a semicolon. If you have something like a for loop, you won't actually have a semicolon at the end of the loop, because the loop opens a body up. So statements are going to end in semicolons. You'll see practice about where the differences are. But every line of code does need to end in a semicolon. You define what a class is. So a class actually is something that we will define in detail starting Wednesday and into Thursday. Classes are a blueprint for how something called an object should behave. That's not really relevant yet because everything we're going to do is static, and we'll talk about what we mean by static in a bit. But classes relate to something called object-oriented design. Print is the same. No. This is a comment. So I was saying in Python, you would write print hello world. Right? Do you remember this from Python? Right, in Python. I was not saying that works. This is a comment, so this line of code is ignored. The way you would write comments in Python was something like pound comment. Java does not do comments that way. Java does //. And in fact, this is the most common comment syntax you'll see. C uses this as well. Most programming languages I'm familiar with do. So it's just system.out.println is print. I was just trying to connect this to Python, which you should have already seen. Yeah. Okay, coming back to that question, how to switch to dark mode. If you go to edit, file. I can't remember. Oh yeah, sorry, window and preferences. There's a few different things that you can find here, like appearance. Here's the theme. I like to use dark. You can kind of play with this and get the one you like. I think dark works better when I'm streaming, just because the color coding, I think, stands out a bit better. So again, window, preferences, and then under general, you'll see appearance. And that lets you do things like mess with the fonts, etc. Are there any other questions? So this is our starting point with Java. So as I mentioned, lecturing for 2 hours and 15 minutes straight, that's going to wear on me, that's going to wear on you. I'm going to lose a lot of people. So we're going to take a 8-minute break from now until 2:05 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to take a brief break until 2:05 p.m. Eastern. Go ahead, get a snack, get some water, whatever you need to kind of help you come back prepared to go. And then we will jump right back into the lecture. I will see everyone here in about 8 minutes. I'll leave this code up, though, for the time being. I am going to turn my camera off, though. We'll be right back. Also, the music that I'm playing is from the game Lost Odyssey, which is a really, really good Xbox 360 game. All right, hello everyone. I just realized I don't need to wear my headset because I'm not actually listening to anything on it. So, turns out I can just go without. Anyway, I'll just make sure that there's a minute for everyone to come back. Is the link? It's not working. I need to fix that link. So Java has updated, to Java 14. So I will fix those links on Piazza, immediately. I can't do it right now. Um, but as soon as class ends, I should be able to fix. Apologies for swallowed water a bit. Anyway, to that end, um, if you just Google, by the way, OpenJDK, it will take you to the most recent version, and the same is true with Eclipse. Eclipse also updates regularly. Uh, by the way, I should note, you are not required to use Eclipse in this class if, for example, you're familiar with something like IntelliJ. However, I will say that I'm designing the homeworks in mind with Eclipse, and the setup instructions might be different if you're not using Eclipse for some of the assignments. Additionally, this is kind of the bigger concern, is the TAs are familiar with Eclipse because that's what we've used in this class before, so they might struggle to learn some of the features of IntelliJ. I'm personally familiar with IntelliJ. I taught a class with IntelliJ last term, so you're not required to use Eclipse. Well, I want to take a minute and say, okay, so we're already talking about downsides of this language. This language, Java, it's so verbose. We're going to get into data types soon. You know how in Python, you can just change variables to be whatever type you want at any moment? Can't do that in Java. So why ever use Java if Python's so much more convenient? Well, there's a number of reasons. The first is that Java is eminently portable. And by that I mean, Java runs on something called a virtual machine. So while it is running on your hardware, it's simulating, actually within your software, it's simulating a standard hardware set that Java uses. And that actually makes it to where if you write code on a Windows machine and send it to a Mac, 100% of the time it will work on the Mac machine, assuming it's the same version of Java. And that's something that other languages can't boast. So that's one advantage. It's very portable. This makes it useful. I should note Android. Android is primarily based on Java. Android apps are developed in Java. It is based on a common C syntax, but addresses some of the compiler issues. So a C program compiled on a Windows machine will not work on a Mac machine. If you create an executable on a Windows machine from a C file and try to run on a Mac, it actually just won't run. You try to run on a Linux machine, it won't run. The same is not true with Java. The executable file, which we'll talk about in a second what that looks like, works on any system. And iOS. iOS does not use Java. So iOS is actually fairly restrictive. It was Objective-C, I think now it's Swift. Why can't I see my screen clearly? Try refreshing the page and see if that helps. Otherwise, so try refreshing the web page. The other thing I could suggest is on Twitch, and I will pull up my Twitch page. So this is going to get a little bit meta here for a second. On Twitch, oh, you can hear me talking. You'll notice there's a little gear right here, and I know it's a bit hard to see because it's appearing in multiple places. There's a gear for settings. Click on that gear, and then you can change the quality. So that should help. Apologies for... Actually, this looks kind of trippy, not gonna lie. Anyway, it is an object-oriented language, as opposed to functional. Now, Python is actually an object-oriented language too, but you haven't really done object-oriented stuff yet. In this class, we're going to devote a large amount of time, starting Thursday, to objects. And we'll talk about what those are. So Java is object-oriented. The program is defining a class of objects. So a class describes how a bunch of different objects behave. Objects may contain other objects. And the idea is objects are used to perform interactions to try to simplify the understanding of how disparate systems interact. And with an object-oriented paradigm, we can build larger, more complex, but also easier to maintain software. So with that, Java and Javac, I want to be clear, these are different things. So first, this is a Java file. A Java file is not run by your computer. Rather, if I go and I open this folder, let me open this folder in my System Explorer, that's Windows, you will see that I have this source folder, and that source folder looks familiar, right? We have a source folder here. But I also have this thing called a bin folder. And this bin folder, bin is short for binary. My cat has decided, here, I'll let him say hi. This is Stuart. He's decided he wanted to say hi. He is a very big, sweet, handsome kitty. Give him some pets, and then I gotta work, baby. You gotta hop down. Well, he will, against my judgment, make appearances in class multiple times. If you look at my clips, there's a clip of him basically knocking my camera over, which is kind of adorable. Anyway. So, with that, in the bin folder, which is short for binary, you'll notice there's this thing, hello world, and it says class file. Well, let's go ahead and let's see what that looks like. Uh-oh. Well, this looks pretty hard to read. That looks pretty complicated. Well, okay, maybe it just looks bad in Eclipse. Maybe it looks better in another program. Let's open this same file in Notepad++, which is a program I like. And uh-oh. Well, this file doesn't look very easy to read, does it? That's because this file is not intended to be read by human beings. The class file is what we call machine code. You see, computers don't actually really understand this. This is too complicated for them. This is too nuanced. Instead, they convert things into binary strings of instructions. That's what a class file is. So when you compile Java code, you are not actually running this Java code. Compiling, which Eclipse does automatically, compiling is the act of turning, and I'm going to pull up my whiteboard here. Compiling is the act of taking your source code file, which is human written and readable. So you as a human interact with the source file contains the this source file is compiled into a machine code file. Source file is .java. The instruction file, or the machine, is .class. And your computer only interacts with the instruction. The computer interacts with the class file. The thing that takes source code and turns it into an instruction called the JDK, or Java Development. And there's two different ones. There's the Oracle JDK. Some just call it JDK. This is developed by Oracle Java. And then there's OpenJDK. Technically, there are others, but the reason I recommend this proprietary. You don't have to pay for it. Use it. But if you want to ever release any product, actually, that is constructed with, you have to give Oracle money. You have to pay some subscription or licensing. OpenJDK, you don't. That's the difference. You're welcome to use either for Flash. You're not going to. I personally have gotten into the purposes of this class, you'll never see Your mic cuts out sometimes. Sorry. I will speak louder when I'm at the whiteboard. Correct. So the only files that you will make and edit are the Java files. You will only work here. Eclipse does the compiling for you. Eclipse takes the source code and converts it into the class for you on your behalf. You won't ever need to look at this file. I just want you to know that it exists. That way you understand how Java works. Java does not run Java file. It runs your class file. It converts your Java file into a class file. And if your code fails to compile, that we cannot go from the Java file to the class file correctly because of syntax. To that end, when it comes to homework, I only ever want... Oh, my purple mark. I have to get it. Not showing well here. Rest in peace, purple marker. All right. To that end, with your homework, I only ever want the Java file. I never want the class file. Only ever submit Java files. Will not grade class files. Just be aware of that. Which again, that's easy. Because if you're working in Eclipse, again, going back to what we saw, notice that in Eclipse, sorry, I can speak quieter now because the microphone's closer. I have to get into that rhythm. Notice that in Eclipse, you don't even see the class file, and that's intended. Eclipse hides the class file from you because you as a human being don't need it. No. Thank you for pointing that out. It's useful. If you see me doing something wrong, let me know, because then I can fix it. So to that end, I also want you to be clear that that Eclipse is actually not doing any magic. So I want to show you how to run Java from the command line if you want to. And here's what I mean by that. And by the way, what I'm about to show you is not on the exam. Don't worry about this part. But I do want you to show you. So this is a Java file, right? So if you have Java installed, you can type something like Java version, and you'll see I have a version of Java here. I can then do javac, which is short for Java compile, hello-world.java. This compiles my Java file, and if you look, it generates the class file. Now the difference with Eclipse automatically puts it in a separate folder, my bin folder. When I'm doing this from command line, by default, it's going to put it in the same place. I can then run this program, which is hello-world.class, simply by typing Java hello world, and that runs my program. All Eclipse does is it takes this and hides it from you, so you don't have to worry about it. But I want to be clear, this is not magic. Eclipse isn't somehow magically doing this. This isn't beyond mortal minds. This is all it's doing. It's just hiding that information from you so you don't have to deal with it. Because it can get more complicated than that. But this is a good starting point. So I can't run a Java file. If I try to do Java hello world Java, nothing happens. But if I do just Java hello world, it will run the class file. If there is no class file, that doesn't work. But I can always compile again using javac and then Java hello world. It is a bit weird that you don't do hello world.class. I don't know why Java decided to do it that way, but that's how they decided to do it. Again, everything I just showed you here, this is not on the exam. I'm not going to test you on it. I just want to demystify what Eclipse is doing. This is all Eclipse is doing. This is really all it's doing. It's just a much more fancy user interface than, well, command line is. Anyway. Are there any questions so far? All right, so now let's jump into the second set of slides for the day. And let's go. So we've already talked a little bit about Java. I've actually covered all of this. Again, with submitting homework, we only want the Java files. We don't want the class files. From there, let's talk about data types. So data types in Java are used to specify what type a variable is. So a variable is simply just some name associated with some either object or primitive data type. And we'll talk about the difference between object and primitive data types later. The idea is a name specifies a location in memory, and that location memory holds a variable. And this is functionally no different than Python variable. It works the same. But there's a difference. See, in Python, and let me go ahead and create a new file for this. And I will upload all code after class, by the way. But I do encourage you to follow along once you have a clip set up, all the same. Data type examples. Public static void main string arg. In Java, when we define a variable, it's not enough to just say x equals 5. You could do this in Python. Java requires an extra step. It's not enough to just say that there is a variable called x. I have to say what data type this variable is, such as saying int x. Int is short for integer or whole numbers. These can be positive or negative, but it is a whole number. You can't do 5.5. The int data type is arguably the most simple. It's just how numbers are represented. Whole numbers are represented. But the key in Java that distinguishes it from Python is that when I declare a variable, I have to both name it and declare its data type. From there, I can do something like system.out.println x, and that will print the value of x, which should print 5. Go. And I can do things like x equals 5 plus x. I can do x equals 7, etc. And then if I print x, you'll see that at each step, every time I change the variable, the value of x changes. Hopefully none of this is new. Notice, though, that I only say int x the first time. Every other time I just say x. And this is because this is actually not one statement. This is 2 statements. And if I were to break it down, I could say there is the declaration int x. And then there is the initialization, x equals 5. Creates the variable, sets the variable's initial value. Now, you would almost never write it out this way. You would almost always just write int x equals 5. But understand that you're doing 2 different things. I am declaring a variable called x, I'm declaring a variable called x that is a data type integer, and then I am saying x equals 5. Are there any questions about this so far? I'll go ahead and shrink this back. There's no reason for the redundancy. I just wanted to clarify why we don't say int x here. Because if I say int x here, well, that's saying, okay, we'll print a new variable. But I've already have a variable called x. I can't redefine it. So there it is. So the question was, so you must define a variable data type before using it. That's correct. A variable in Java can only have one data type. In Python, you get to play fast and loose. You can take a variable that's an int, turn it into a double, take a variable that's a double, turn it into a string. You get to play really fast and loose. You're like an action movie star in the 80s. You don't have to worry about the paperwork. In Java, you have to worry about the paperwork. And in Java, the downside is once a variable's data type is declared, it can never change. X is now an int, and forever an int shall it be. You can't change the data type of x later. There are other data types. Let's go with string. String, which you should be familiar with from Python, string text equals hello. This data type, string, which is capital S string, not lowercase, Java is case sensitive, defines a string of text or a collection of characters. And I can do system.out.println text. I can do things like text plus equals world. If you're not familiar with plus equals, just to clarify, this is the same as saying text equals text plus world. These are just the same statement. And then system.out.println text. Why capitalize S for string? That is a great question, and it actually gets to the heart of something I'm going to talk about later, about the difference between objects or reference data types and primitive data types. It gets to the heart of that, but I'm not prepared to dive into that yet. Just put a dog ear and say, note that this is because there's something fundamentally different between the way ints work and the way strings work. And we'll get into that difference later on. So notice I add world, it now prints text as hello world. Now I want to be clear. Both of these have a plus operator, but the plus operator is different. This is a mathematical plus operation. This is a concatenation. This plus means combine these two strings. So if I do 2 plus 5, I get 7. But if I do string 2 plus string 5, what am I going to get? Am I going to get 7? I'm going to get 25, exactly. I'm going to get 25. And the reason is you're just taking the string... I have a reverse camera angle. So you're taking the string from 2, and you're taking the string from 5, and you're just smushing them together. 25. To that end, that's what you end up with. So this is int, and this is string. From there, and it seems that some people are on a bit of different timing here. That's something that can happen with Twitch sometime. So if it seems like the chat is kind of getting ahead of you, don't worry about that. You haven't missed anything. It's just that your stream may be a little bit behind someone else's stream, but that doesn't mean you've missed anything. Like I said, I'm not actually checking attendance or anything. You're not going to be penalized in any way. So let's consider the other primitive data types. Oh, yeah, plus equals can be used on ints. So for example, I can change this line to just be x plus equals 5. That also works on int. There you go. You still get 5, then 10, then 7. Yeah. So now, let's introduce the next data type. And this one has a weird name. I also don't know why my lighting is so mixed up, and it makes me look like I'm, I don't know, in the afterlife almost, it seems. Apologies for the lighting. So the package thing, I'll address that here in a second. You're welcome to have that for now, but for the homework, we're going to want to fix that, and I'll tell you why that's happening here in a bit. Let me finish at least with double. So double R equals 3.5. This looks weird, and I want to be clear what double means. Double means a decimal number. Now, why is it called a double? In Python, you also had a data type that could have a decimal number. Does anyone remember what that's called? I don't remember what the data type for a floating point number called. A float, exactly. A double is like a float, except Python also has a float. Or Java also has a float. Except I can't do it this way, and it's a bit weird, but let's just, for now, roll with this. So here's the thing, is that Python doesn't actually adhere to the same standards as other languages all the time. Python, again, kind of plays fast and loose with some of the rules. But here's the gist of why this is called a double. So a float, well, first let's start with an int. An int, no matter what number you're working with, an int always takes up 4 bytes. If you don't know what a byte is is 8 bits, and a bit is either a 1 or a 0. What this means is that an int actually has a maximum value. And that value, system.out.println integer.maxValue, is actually kind of small, you'll find. The int's largest value is 2,147,483,647. There are more than this many people in the world. So why is this number the largest value? That seems arbitrary, right? Well, this number is actually equal. Keep in mind that if I have 4 bytes, that means I have 32 bits. Half of these numbers have to be negative, right? Because, I mean, I need to represent negative numbers. So if I assign every combination of bits to one number, that means I have effectively 1 bit for positive or negative, and I have then 31 bits for numbers. That means the largest number that I could represent, and I won't get too deep into the mathematics here, just trust me on this. The largest number I can represent is 2 to the power of 31 minus 1. So 2 to the power of 31 minus 1, that is actually equal to this number exactly. What happens if I add 1 to this number? I get negative 2 billion something. This is the smallest number that I can have. The fact is, there's a finite number of values that can be represented with 4 bits. And the way computers typically handle this is if you overflow, it wraps around. There's a Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson buys an SUV and he's filling up at the gas station, and the joke is he needs so much gas that he ends up, it goes, he's at $99.98, then 99 cents. Then it rolls over, and because the gas pump doesn't have a third digit, it reads 0, and he goes, woohoo, free gas. The point is, this is what happens in Java and in C and in any other language. Once you reach this maximum, it just rolls over to the smallest value. So what happens if you need an int larger than this? Well, if you need an int larger, an int is 4 bytes. From there, you have a long, which is 8 bytes. And because it has more bytes, the largest value is much larger than 2 billion something. The largest value here is 2 to the power of 63 minus 1, which is a much bigger number. What if you need a larger number than that? There are actual data types you can use and download, but the point is, ints do have a maximum value. So what does this have to do with float? Why am I spending time on this? Well, a float in Java does exist. There is a thing called a float, and you can say float f equals 4.3f. But why do we separate float and double if they're both decimal? This, by the way, just means 4.3 as a float. Well, the reason is a float is 4 bytes. And a double is 8 bytes. It has twice as many bytes as the float. Why is this better? Because it offers better precision. It turns out, and this is a bit strange, you cannot represent the number 0.1 in binary. This number cannot be represented perfectly in binary. It's an infinite sequence. And so because of this, we're stuck representing all our numbers in binary. The way Java represents numbers changes. And so the more bytes that you have, the more precise the number is. The closer to representing 0.1 you get. If you have twice as many bytes, you are substantially, not just twice, you are substantially more precise. But you're not perfect. And we'll get into cases where doubles are not perfect later. Now that was a big long tangent. The short version is, there are things called floats in Java, but if you want to use a decimal number in Java, by default use double, not float. So this is how we represent a rational number. From there, this has the same operations as an int. You can do plus 1.7 system.out.println r. And let's do that. And there you go. I see you get 5.2 here. That's what I expected. Why would you ever use a float ever then? So oftentimes there's something called embedded systems. That's when you have generally a weak processor. So for example, your alarm clock is a computer. It has a processor in it, but that processor probably can't run Crysis, right? It's not a particularly strong processor. So if you're dealing with limited hardware resources, you might find to use a float for the sake of memory efficiency, because again, it's twice as, or it's half as many bytes. Yeah, so that's if memory's an issue. I can say that with anything we do in this class, you're not going to run into that problem. It's the same true with int. Why would you ever use an int when you could use a long? Ints just use fewer bytes, and almost all the conventional programs you write don't need numbers larger than 2 billion. And there's a funny story, by the way, about integer rollover, which I'll talk about if I have time at the end of class. If you're a fan of the game Civilization, you might have already thought of this. Anyway. So then, also, we have our minus equals. And let's just go ahead and subtract, 1.3 from that. Yep, you know where I'm going. Yama knows exactly where I'm going. There we go. 4. But let's try something a bit simple. Let's just do system.out.println 2.7 minus 1.3. And this should give us 1.4, right? What is that? 2.7 minus 1.3 is 1.4. 1? What? What's happening there? Why is this a float? Because technically, if I deleted the f, it would have been a double, and you can't assign a double value to a float variable. You're not gonna have to worry about that, because I'm not gonna bring up on an exam floats at all. I just want you to know why we don't use floats, even though they exist. Don't worry too much about it, because you're always going to use doubles in this class. I just wanted to specify why, even though the word float exists and you're used to it, why we're not using it. But what is going on here? Well, remember what I said earlier. The number 0.4 can't be perfectly represented in binary. There's a little bit of an imprecision. The same can happen when we do this. Not a trick question. What should print if I do first double q equals math.square root 2. This is, by the way, how you get the square root of a number. And I do system.out.println q times q. This is not a trick question. What should print if I do the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? What should print? 2, right? Well, once again, we have this imprecision. Now, I want to be clear. This is not Java's fault. This is not Java's fault. In fact, if you do the same in Python, you'll typically run into it as well. And if you do it in C, you'll run into it as well. This is because back in the early 70s, as people started building all these different computers, there was a problem. And that was that if you performed a mathematical operation on one computer, you could get a slightly different result than if you performed the same operation on a different computer because of how the computers were built. This was a serious problem because how can you do banking on computers if two banks use different calculations? If two banks end up with a different result, which one is correct? So a means to make sure that, and this is, by the way, the same, I mentioned I have a guitar over here. This guitar is slightly out of tune, right? No matter how much I try to tune it, it's going to be slightly out of tune, no matter what. Now, if I'm in a band, you think, okay, that's a problem. Because if everyone's guitar is out of tune slightly, the band's going to sound bad, right? But what if everyone sounds bad by the same amount? Because here's the thing. I take that guitar into a cold room, it's going to sound different than if I take that guitar into a hot room. You will actually, as a human being, be able to tell the difference. There will be a different pitch, just because of the temperature of the room. But if everyone in the band, if one person tunes their guitar, and then everyone in the band tunes their guitar to sound the same as that one, then yes, the band will be out of tune, but everyone will be out of tune by the same amount, and it will sound fine. A human won't detect that it's out of tune, because everyone will sound the same. The same here. The idea is, everyone's going to end up with a little bit of imprecision, but if everyone ends up with the same imprecision, it's acceptable. So this is an ANSI standard. I want to write that term down. ANSI. And I can't remember the exact standard name, but this is a standard that was developed, and this is to say this is how you will do floating point mathematics. The long version, that's a long way to say the following. If you see things like this when you're dealing with doubles, that's okay. That doesn't mean your code has a bug necessarily. It just means that you're off by a little bit because the floating point number has some inherent imprecision to it. Because it cannot perfectly represent all numbers. Are there any questions about that? By the way, this even has some weirder implications. If I do 0.1 times 10 versus 0.1 plus 0.1. Okay, so that's 2. Hang on. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These two things don't result in the same number. I have 1, and I have 0.999999999. Right, correct. Doubles cannot perfectly represent the square root of 2 because they have a finite size. They cannot perfectly represent 0.1 because 0.1 doesn't have a mathematically perfect translation to binary. It has an infinite sequence, but binary cannot be used to represent, or excuse me, a finite number of bytes cannot be used to represent an infinite repeating number. It can only represent terminating numbers. So, with that, just be aware that doubles are sometimes going to be imprecise. But so other than that, I'm not going to spend too much time on doubles and ints, other than to point one last thing out. There is a rule in Java, an operation that takes in, an operation between two ints always produces an int. An operation between two doubles always produces a double. And an operation between int and double always produces a double. Here's what I mean by that. System.out.println. 3 times 5. 3 and 5 are both ints. This gives me 15. However, 3.0 times 5.0 These are doubles because they have decimal places. So that is going to give me 15.0. 15.0 is a double. It's not an int. Yes, you and I look at that and say, well, it's an integer, it's a whole number. But to Java, its data type is double because it has a decimal place. But there are consequences of this as it relates to division. System.out.println 10 divided by 4. What is this answer? What is 10 divided by 4? You can use a calculator if you need to help. 2.5, okay. Any other guesses? Someone's saying 2. Why would it be 2? Well, remember this rule. Operations between two ints produce an int. 10 is an int. 4 is an int. And as a result of that, the result is 2, not 2.5. If I change this to 10.0, now that's a double, it's going to give me 2.5. But if I leave it as 10, it's going to give me 2. In Java, and I want to be clear, this always rounds down. So, like, if I change this to 100 divided by 51, that's almost 2. If you put that into your calculator, it'll be 1.9 something. That's almost 2. It's really, really close to 2. This is still going to say 1. And that's because it always rounds down. That is, it truncates the decimal place. So if my result were something like 1.99587, it's just going to do 1. There's no need for floor division anymore. So in Python, floor division is actually used. So that's in Python 3, which you've learned. You've learned Python 3. In Python 3, you've had to use special floor division //. In Python 2, and in basically every other programming language, and almost every other language, division between two ints is floor division. You just use that. Python 3, once again, is kind of the special case. And that's because Python's designed to be easy to learn. That's actually its primary goal, is to be easy to learn. It's why it sacrifices some things that would help, say, scalability or testability. It sacrifices those in the name of being very easy to pick up and do what you want with. So this is floor division. There is no // in Java. If you want to do normal division with a decimal place, you have to convert one of these numbers into a double. And it doesn't matter which you do. Just one of them. So that's another place where Python's the unique language, not Java. Java often gets a bad rap, and I think it's because people learn Python and then go to Java and think all these weird idiosyncrasies are Java's fault. No, these are much older paradigms that are developed much longer ago. So this always rounds down. Just be aware of that. Are there any questions? At that point, it's worth... is there an in-class activity today? There is. And we're going to get to it. So this class goes until 3:15. I do plan to use that time. That's why I take a break in the middle to give everyone a chance to recharge. But so I will be using up the remainder of that time. I will cover the in-class activity in the last 5 or so minutes of class. All right, the next data type that we're going to look at is Boolean. And Boolean you've actually seen before as bool, right? Anyone remember what Boolean is? Or at least what bool is in Python? What would Boolean be in Java? Is there casting in Java? There is, and I'll get into that later. I will get into that later. So there was another question I said I'd get to later. Yeah, the package one. With the package question, just come to my office hours if you can, and I'd be happy to work through it. True or false? Correct. True or false. So we can have Boolean t equals true, lowercase t true. Not capitalized like in Python. And Boolean f equals false. True and false are reserved words, so you can't make a variable with the name true or false. Those are values. And that's all you have. From there, we have combinations of these, so we can do something like system.out.println t and t. That's going to print true, and being an and operation. You could also do true and false. That's going to print false. So that's and system.out.println t, and this is a weird key. You may not have seen it before. If you look above your enter key, you'll see a slash, and if you do shift, you'll see a vertical bar, and that's what that is. That is or, and then we have system.out.println t exponent false. And you may think, wait, are we raising true to the power of false? No. This is XOR. This is XOR. This takes me back to int. System.out.println what is 3 to the power of 5? It is not what you think it is. It is not 243. I promise you that. It's 6. And you may think, well, why is this 6? Because the number 3 is 0011. Technically, it's 32 bits, but I'm shortening it to 4 for the sake of demonstrating this. And the number 5 is 0101. And the XOR of these, XOR just means if they're the same, it's false. If they're different, it's 1. So, and you treat 0 like false, you treat 1 like true. So 0 XOR 0 is 0, 0 XOR 1 is 1. This is the answer, and that is equal to 6. Short point, if you need to do powers, don't do this. This is not the power function. If you need to do powers, math.pow 3, 5. That's how you do exponents. Although I will say, if you just need to square a number, it's actually much faster computationally if you just say 3 times 3 rather than math.pow 3, 2. Correct. True and false are not capitalized in Java. And in fact, that's the same in C as well. Correct. So you should be familiar with and or from before, so I'm not going to elaborate on them. Just be aware that these are how they're written in Java. Are there any other questions about binary? Oh, and also, how do you do not? That's a question you should probably be interested in. System.out.println exclamation point T. That's not like you're really excited about T. That means not T. And so if you run that, that's going to print false. So this is not. Exclamation point means not. Any questions about Boolean? All right. So now, let's go back to string. So in Python, you have one data type for text called string. In Java, we have 2 different data types. String is for a group of text, but a group of text is just text made up of single letters, right? To that end, we have a data type called character, or char, which I pronounce car because I don't say character, I say character, but when it's written, it looks like char. Anyway. Equals A. And I want to note, this has single quotes, this has double. Unlike Python, in Java, there is a difference. This is a character, this is a string. If I were to put 2 quotes around this, double quotes around this, this is now a string. It's not a character, and so this line of code doesn't compile. So a car is a single character. So you can think of car kind of as a single value, and string as like an array or a list of characters. Hi, Stuart. I know you're getting impatient. Sorry, you probably heard the meow there. So characters though are a bit weird because they're not actually letters. I know they look like letters. I know you may be thinking, wait, but that is very much a letter. But it's actually a number. To that end, no, Stuart. Sorry, my cat is being very much attention deprived at the moment. Cars are represented using ASCII. And I'm just going to, if you Google ASCII table, ACSII, you'll get something like this. And I want to specifically identify the right 3 columns over here. I'm going to zoom in on them through the Star Trek Enhance. Every character has an associated number. This is des for decimal, so this is numbers as you know them. So the lowercase a is actually the number 97. Lowercase b is the number 98. And this actually has an interesting consequence. If I were to typecast, someone asked how do we typecast? Here's how. I'm going to say int b equals int ch. What this does is it does not change the data type of ch. Ch is still a car. As I said earlier, you can never change a variable's data type. But I'm creating a new variable, and I'm storing the integer representation of ch. What is the integer representation of ch? System.out.println b. It's going to be 97. Here's where it's printing 97. This is printing 97 because looking at the ASCII table, lowercase a maps to 97. I'm not expecting you to memorize the ASCII table. Don't worry about that. But there are some things worth noting. First and foremost, what would happen if I said ch++? ch++, by the way, is the same as saying ch equals ch plus 1, or you could also say it's ch plus equals 1. This is just another way to write that in shorthand. Python does not support this, by the way, but Java and C do. This is +1. If I were to now convert this, you're going to say, okay, well, ch is going to be 98, which is what you would expect. But if I actually just print ch here, I print ch, you'll see that ch prints as the letter B. And that's because, going back to the ASCII table, lowercase a plus 1 is lowercase b. Lowercase b plus 1 is c. C plus 1 is d. You hopefully know the alphabet song, or at least some variation thereof. So you can use that to then fill in all the letters in that order. It's also worth noting, lower capital letters actually have a smaller numeric value than lowercase letters. And then digits work the same way. 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So now, given what I have shown you, the first person to type the correct answer for what this prints, you are excused from today's in-class activity. I will give you the points, and you do not need to do it. The first person to type the correct answer. I'll give you a hint. It's not what you think it is. What is this? What is going to print? So far, no correct answers in chat. I'll give another 30 seconds, and if someone gets it right... Okay, hang on. I got 2 people there. I'm going to assume that your Twitch name is your real name. Is that correct? Or you can just PM me on Twitch if you don't want to announce it at large. I just need to know who to excuse. Because that is correct. Because here's the thing. An integer, an operation between two integers produces an integer. And an operation between two doubles produces a double. What does an operation between two characters produce? Well, it's a character. And characters are numbers. This character is not A, it's 97. But when we print it, it prints as A. And so, this is the same as saying C is 99 plus 97 plus, let me check what lowercase t is. Lowercase t is 116. This is addition, not concatenation. When you add characters together, you get a character, which is a letter, not letters. However, if I add this at the beginning, there's one rule about strings. Anything added to a string or a string added to anything produces a string. And if I make this tiny change, I add an empty string at the beginning and then a plus symbol, now it prints as cat. Because the empty string plus the character C, this is the string containing C. And an empty, or the string containing C plus the character A is CA. And the string containing CA plus the character T is cat. Now it will do this. But if I don't have that empty string at the beginning, that is what I do. And this takes us to my next point. I can convert from a character to an int like this. I can go int, let's go double E equals 3.5. Int F equals int E. Actually, let me do 0.9 just to short circuit this a bit. I do system.out.println F. Oops. Hang on. Let me delete some stuff here for the moment. If I do system.out.println F, you'll notice it prints the number 3. When we convert from a double to an int with typecasting, it drops the decimal place. By the way, E is unaffected. If I print E, E is still 3.9. Because remember, E is still a double. I have not changed the data type of E. I've just created a new value to store an integer version of the value in E. So E is 3.9, F is 3. So in that sense, strings cannot use single quotes. Strings absolutely cannot use single quotes in Java. They have to use double quotes. So I can say string s equals a, and I can say char t equals a. But I cannot switch these. No, because that C is not a... So what you're asking is, if I did this... But this is not a string. This is a string plus a character. With nothing in it. So there's two definitions of nothing. Let's do the following. Hello. If I do hello plus this isn't valid. I have to put something here. I could put a white space, but this is actually a character. Right? Because this is white space. It's like hitting the space bar on your keyboard. There is something called the null character, and that is /0. And this is nothing. If I print this, nothing prints. Not even white space. And this is actually what we call the default value of a character. We'll talk about that when we talk about arrays tomorrow. But /0 means a character that contains nothing. It's a null character. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds there yet. Okay, so that takes us to 305. So I've covered four primitive data types. Int, and I'm going to write this down here. Primitive. And by the way, you've already caught, I don't actually like teaching with slides very much. I will always upload slides. I just probably won't use them. I prefer doing this kind of interactive learning. I find this more rewarding myself. So if you print t, then you could get the new number value of... Hang on. So if I... No, so it depends. If I print t, system.out.println t, it's going to print the character value because t is a character. It prints the letter A. But if I want to get the numeric value, I can print int t. And that gives me 97. So if you want the numeric value of a character, characters are transformers. You know, transformers are cars until they turn into robots. Characters are letters, but they're actually numbers. And unlike Michael Bay, they're not ultimately disappointing and unfulfilling. There's a great love song about how Michael Bay ruined the movie Pearl Harbor from one of the movies the South Park guys made. It's pretty good. Pearl Harbor sucks and I miss you. If you want to look up that song, it's actually pretty hilarious. Anyway, it's a dated reference. Probably none of you have seen the movie Pearl Harbor. It sucks, by the way. All right, so primitive data types. I sometimes go on little rants like primitive data types. That is int, double, char, and boolean. Strings are special. There's something called a reference data type, and it has to do with why they're capital S. I'm not going to talk today about what that means. Just understand that there is a difference, and at the base of this is this idea of object orientation. And this is something that we are very much going to start on in class on Thursday, and we're really going to start hitting hard. That's a big part of the class. And it has to do with the difference between these two things. And we'll do this when we talk about object orientation. We will talk about how it will let you define your own data types. So you can always make your own data types that perform some specific purpose. Such as a photograph data type, which is what you will do on one of the homeworks. But we'll get there another day. For now, let's take a step back. And like I said, all of this information's in the slides. I just don't really like to use it. I do have this little example that you can follow along, converting Python to Java. Let's go ahead and do this real quick. Oops, that is not going to work. There we go. Okay. Make sure I can see chat. There we go. All right. So, oops, I am not on the correct slide. So how would we go from, say, a function, or say a short little program that finds the greatest common denominator between 144 and 27? Well, if this on the left is Python, and we say x equals 144, how do we translate x equals 144 to Java? Someone go ahead and type that line. Just the first line. How would we say, right, int x equals 144? And we would need to do the same with 27. From there, this while loop, you can convert it exactly the same way into Java. We'll talk about this structure actually tomorrow. We'll start talking about how to write loops. But the while loop shouldn't be a new idea to you. You should be familiar with how it works. It's just, you've done it in Python, it translates to Java. Now, the next line I need to write, I need to create a variable called temp and set it equal to x. Which of these three lines do I do in order to create a variable called temp and set it equal to x? A, B, C, or D? Just type A, B, C, or D. I'm going to wait until I see, like, at least a dozen A, B, Cs, or Ds in chat before I proceed. Come on, there's got to be more than 4 people watching. There we go. It's starting to pick up. I'll wait. All right, good. Getting a lot of participation here. That's what I wanted. I did see a C in there, and you actually do have the right idea. You do need to say int once, but I want to clarify why the answer is B. See, temp is the variable that's not declared yet. Notice we don't have a temp defined. We do, however, have an x defined. We've said int x, so we've defined x. So we wouldn't say int x again. Temp is a new variable we're creating, and so we're going to say int temp equals x. From there, we can translate the next 2 lines exactly the same. We just have to add semicolons. And then instead of print x, it's system.out.println x. So we'll get more into the loop and some of the other facets of this tomorrow. But now for the in-class activity. The in-class activity, and I've actually copied this to Colab. First, let me show you where it is so you can enter it. If you go to Colab and you go to the homepage, you'll see assignments. And if you click on assignments, you'll get this list. Go to daily assignment day 1. And then from there, this exact same content is written here. It's the same information both on the slide and here. You are simply going to say which data type you would want to use for each of these. Again, you're graded on effort, but you should be able to make reasonable assumptions as to which of these you should use. To that end, I very much encourage you to hop into Discord. I strongly encourage this. Hop into Discord and just pick a random student room. Jump in with someone else. But work with each other, because by communicating these ideas back and forth with another person, you will actually learn them better. So I very much encourage you to work with another student in one of the student rooms we have here. You can already see there are some people in Discord. Just jump right in. The Discord link, I will link it again just for anyone who missed it the first time. You do need to join this Discord because that is where our office hours will be. So I do encourage you to get on the Discord. But there you go. There's the link. If you haven't joined it yet, you can jump right in. And just jump in any of these student rooms. And yes, I have a bunch of servers. From there, go ahead and give this a shot, work with each other, and then submit on Colab. You will also note that Homework 0 has been posted. Homework 0 is going to involve writing functions in Java. If you're just learning Java, you may not be prepared for that yet, but I at least wanted to get it up. You should be ready to start tackling Homework 0. Pardon me. Lost my breath there for a second. You'll be ready to tackle Homework 0 after tomorrow's class. It will be due this Friday. It's a fairly short turnaround time, but we do have office hours to help you. And certainly if you want to start on it now, we'll be ready to help you in office hours. From there, just a reminder again, our office hours schedule is visible. And you can see, look, everyone's typing in general. You're welcome to use that. I also have a pet pictures channel. Very important. Please share your furry friends. But more importantly, the schedule channel. Here are my office hours. So I have some starting today. I actually got these backwards. This should be Mondays, 3:30 to 4:30. So I have, let me switch these out real quick. So I have office hours today at 3:30. So if you need help, just jump in then. With that, are there any last questions before I take off for the day? I know it's a long lecture to get through, but this is the nature of summer courses. But we are ending on time, so I have nothing else. I'm just here to answer questions, and you're free to go. I once again encourage you, jump into one of these students' room and work with someone. Look, someone could use some help here. Just jump into student room 6. Just jump in with someone. Everyone has the same mission to learn the material, so work with each other to do that. Otherwise, if there are no questions, I will let everyone go. And I'll go back to the Lost Odyssey music when we go out. I just like to sit here for like 4 minutes and let people type any questions they might have. My pleasure. I love this job. I love teaching. It's a challenge to do it right now, but I'm glad that I get to do it over the summer because otherwise I would pretty much just be bored. And this is not just my job. This is kind of who I am. What's your favorite? Oh, yes, I forgot. You mentioned this so earlier. I talked about this is not related to class. You are free to go. This will not be on the exam. You do not feel the need to stick around. This is not part of lecture. Okay. Just so everyone's clear of that, because I don't want to make people say oh, he lectured longer than 2 hours and 15 minutes. This is not class material. This is just an FYI kind of for fun thing. So, and I have a very specific answer to that question. Um, so, thank you. Where can we find the YouTube records? I will have that link on the Piazza master thread. The link will be there as soon as the uploads occur. So just check there as soon as class is over. All right. In Civilization, in the original Civilization, so this is an older game, Civilization. The idea is there's all these different, and they map, and you expand, you get land, you get try to build from the Stone Age to a part of the game has been part of. Now, war is not typically encouraged in this. In fact, there's a lot more reasons not to go to war than there are, especially in more recent. Gotten good about how much war. Well, the AI in the game we're playing against. What happens is every leader has an expression, and this game has tons of different leaders that range from, like you even have in some games Gilgamesh, fictional character. Yeah, I'm speaking up, but I'm trying to project because my microphone is way over at my desk, and it's not actually super close to my whiteboard. So you have an aggression score, and you'll have leaders like you'll have leaders like Teddy Roosevelt, who has a fairly high aggression, and you'll have world leaders like Elizabeth the First, and it's all these different historical leaders. And one of the world leaders, Montezuma the Second, or no, sorry, not Montezuma the Second, Montezuma the First. Montezuma the Second was the one who lost to Hernando Cortez invasions, the Spanish, Central America. Montezuma one was the one who, through war, united the Aztec Empire into. So he was in a very aggressive. And so the game gave him a very high aggression. Gave him an aggression. This is the highest degree. Gandhi is also in the game. And Gandhi, in order to match his persona of nonviolence, has an aggression score of 1. So this is the lowest, and this is the highest. Now, in this game, the aggression score was represented with something called an unsigned button. It was 8 bits, and it had no negative numbers. So 8 bits, no negative numbers, means the number range from 0 to 155. There's no number smaller than 0, no number larger than 2. However, in the game would evolve over time. You see, early on, war was never good, but certainly there's a big difference between World War I and World War II. As societies get more complex and they get better, the weapons get better, war gets more destructive, so war becomes more and more disincentivized. And the game tries to mimic this. One of the ways they do it, a country becomes a democracy, its aggression score reduces to 2. So if Montezuma were to become a democracy, 10. Still pretty aggressive, But the idea is democracies don't really want to be drafted. They're going to vote against Gandhi's. 1 minus 2 becomes -1, right? Well, there's a problem because there is no -1. The smallest number is 0. So what's 0 minus 1 based on what I said earlier today? Why, it's 255. And the next thing Gandhi would research after democracy was the Manhattan Project. And at that point, Gandhi would become a warlike figure, threatening and using nuclear weapons for no reason. And since then, that's kind of become a intentionally left it situation where Gandhi's more likely. But that's kind of just a funny story about a bug that has to do with. Anyway, I know this, again, has nothing to do with Clash, just thought some people would find that funny. That's why, if you ever see anything about Gandhi being this, war-hungry, nuke-happy leader, that's where it comes from. Alright, what's my favorite Civ? Okay, this is a weird answer. Civilization 5, Gods and Kings, Ethiopia. So there were 2 expansions, Gods and Kings, then Brave New World. Brave New World destroyed Ethiopia. Ethiopia was no longer good. But during Gods and Kings, Ethiopia was the most fun to play. Alright, that's all I got. Take care, everyone.